to Fusionsoft presentation. My name is Jeron. I am the project lead, and we have Franco Studio. He is our software QA, and project manager is Chris. So what we have here is our company being Fusionsoft. We are a software consulting firm. We mostly target mid to small size companies. And for the MedDev Solutions International, one of our clients, they asked us to provide a software solution for them. So this is what we're going to cover this morning. For the overview of what we're going to talk about, we have the MedDev Solution Service Depot, what type of business they are in, and how they track the operation that goes on in this service depot. They basically came up to us and said, give us something better, something really new, and something that we could use from the cloud. Basically, they're asking for our database system. So some of the other things that we're going to cover is how we design the system, the overview of it, and how it's going to be used, along with the access to this database. You know, we have to access the database. Of course, it has to be authenticated. We want to make sure that it's in a secure manner. And the last bit of this demonstration, this presentation is a demonstration. All right. So from the top, MedDev has grown. Right now, they have approximately close to 1,000 technicians, and they have at least 4 or 5 managers and many supervisors. So to go along with that, we have to make sure that the access levels are different from regular users, being the technicians out on the floor, and for the supervisors and the managers, of course, they are going to have a higher level access and admin access. For the equipment repair, they have infusion devices, personal heart monitor, thermometers, you name it, mostly personal medical devices, but there are small companies that go to them to get their medical devices repaired as well. The original tracking system they use is a file system, basically, and it's a standalone system. You know, you have a computer system here, you have another desktop here, but they don't talk to each other. So as far as update goes, it's the old ways of doing things. So now they want something better where it's centralized. So they request us to provide them that could be extracted from the cloud, basically, and get updated just as fast to make sure that the data are correct. For the so that's the tracking system part. So what we talked about is what database are we going to use, which is better, and we also going to provide them with a mobile platform access to it. So we figure we would go with the Android mobile system. The Android has a built-in SQLite. It's just a small database, and mostly it's up to 30 megabytes in size. That was our original plan, and then we realized, you know what, this is going to probably bog down the mobile device. So them being requesting a cloud access, we went with the Amazon Web Services. Amazon has they have a web. They actually have at least 3 database types. They have the RDS, Relational Database System. They have a DynamoDB and a SimpleDB. SimpleDB is what we picked. SimpleDB is one of the database systems. It's non-relational. It stores all the information in strings. So let's say, for example, the RDBMS, relational. So in one hand you have relational, on the other hand you have non-relational. On the relational you have tables, you know, fields and rows, right, and columns. For the non-relational, they call the table domain, and each field is going to be item name, and then the attributes are being the columns. So the primary key is stored as a string, and everything is stored as a string. But we could utilize this SimpleDB to do just exactly the same way as relational would do. as far as like querying the database, extracting specific information, to pinpoint, for example, the dates, like from what date to a certain date, you could do a full count, even though it's in a string format storage. So now we can move on to system design, and Franco's going to cover that portion, talk more about it.
Good morning, everyone, faculties, guests. My name is Franco. I'll be talking about the system design of our application. First, I'll talk about the system overview, the process model that we chose to do our project on, and our system architecture, as well as the system use case. First, I'll talk about the system overview. Our system is composed of three main components. These are the workstation or the mobile devices, our web servers, and our database. The workstation, the application will be running on Windows-based system, and on the mobile devices, we chose, like Jeron mentioned earlier, we'll be using Android. And our web server will be the Amazon web server. And the Amazon web server provides the simple DB. It's very simple, as Jeron mentioned also. And the good thing about the simple DB, it replicates itself. So availability on the database is really good, because if one of the database goes down, it'll still be available because the rest will still be running. Now, the process model that we chose to do our project on is the incremental model. What incremental model is we will be releasing different versions, and each version will have different functionality progressively. And this incremental model, it has 4 phases, which is the requirement analysis, design, implementation, and the testing. The requirement analysis is we focuses on finding out the problem and the requirement of our customer. And the design phase is this is when we establish our architecture of the project, and the implementation is when we actually establish to make sure the requirement and the functionality is met. And the testing phase is when we actually test the application, make sure the function that we said will be running the way it should be, and also to find out all the errors if there's any. And the advantage of an incremental model is we always have a working product where we can get a feedback from our customer. That way we can correct or make sure that the requirement is met, and also it requires a small number of programmers to create the application. And also with the incremental model, we can break down the problem, so it'll be smaller to deal with and easy to correct, and it'll be easier to maintain. Now, our system architecture, it illustrates our computer software configuration items, the computer software unit. The computer software unit, it shows all the functionality of our application, such as adding a device into a database, modifying the information on that device, as well as deleting the information on that device. And also for the admin user, they can create the user and modify the information on that user, and also delete the user off the database. And also it illustrates the security management, where it requires authentication of the user, and based on that authentication, the user is determined whether they have the administration privilege or they're just a regular user. And also for the user interface, it illustrates the three main graphic user interface, which is the logon. It's when they started off, and also the interface for the technician, which is the regular user, and interface for the manager and supervisor, who has the administration privilege. This is the overall system use case for our application. It's just to show the 2 main users of the system, which is the manager or the supervisor, or the technician, which is the regular user. It shows what they can do with the system, such as for the manager, for the user maintenance, like I mentioned earlier, they can add, remove user, or modify the application of that user. And for the technician, they're not allowed to, they don't have access to the user maintenance. All they can do is just add device or delete information on the device, as well as generate report. And now I'll call on Chris Lewis to continue our presentation.
Good morning. I'm going to be covering just the conceptual portion of this part and how we went through it and how we got to it. We took a lean type approach with a Six Sigma approach to it, and we first started with our security, our logon approach. A logon was dual-layered security, as you can kind of glean from what my colleagues have put out, that this is partially in the web base itself and also in the program, where each individual computer has its own logon. So that's your first stage. The second stage is your database login, which is twofold. We have a login to our Android system, and also we have the AHW credentials. They're adding a double-fold security at that point. And we go into our leveled access here. Now, our leveled access at that point gives us a little more control on the security, and also is another lean type of approach. On the database administrator, he's not going to be using the standard GUI that we have developed for everybody else. What's going to be taking place is he's going to be actually on the simple database and taking care of that way. He'll be able to monitor and alter any domain item, any domain attribute, or anything in the domain. He can generate queries as need be at that point. So this one's going to require a little bit of skill, which we will provide the training for. Now, we go down to the middle level of the access. Middle level access is the manager and supervisor. This is where we get into the lean area. The only thing these guys are going to be able to see is what is directly related to the job. Is when you get a hold of these Android devices, and you'll see on there, it's strictly only the items they're going to be using. It's very clean, very, very straight through. They have direct manipulation of equipment status, meaning they can add items, take items away, monitor the subordinates. They can generate reports as they need to see. This is part of the metrics. And when they generate reports, they see what's happening at that point. They can see who's doing what equipment is falling behind at that time. Now, the maintenance personnel is the biggest tier of this thing. There's thousands of potentially thousands of maintenance personnel. And this is where the money is at this point. So we have taken it and put it down to just 3 or 4 items these guys can access. It won't take any time away from what they're doing. They'll actually speed it up. Mobile device, computer, doesn't matter. They can add a device, one-click add, they're in. And the good thing about this is they can only access what their items under their name. They have no access to anything else, therefore they're totally focused. The big thing for the report generation here is the start and ending, and that will give us the matrix. That's all dollar. How long they keep the item in and they can get it out. And they can self-monitor. Now, again, summary, each level is job specific, and each one has only what they have. Now, the data storage we covered was Amazon SimpleDB. The reason why we went with SimpleDB is highly flexible, highly mobile, and it's very quick on Android system. We can get up to 2 terabytes of storage on this thing. That's a huge amount. And another good thing about the SimpleDB, if we lose a single domain, it doesn't crash the system. Whereas in relational DB, if we lose a domain, depending where it's linked, we can lose access to certain things at that time. The scalability of thing, like I said, can go up to 2 terabytes, extremely, extremely mobile and flexible. Since it is run by Amazon on the cloud, it can be accessed by multiple people at multiple times for multiple devices. Multiple information can be flown. The migration capability of this is unlimited. If they decide to leave a relational DB at that time, they can easily transfer it to an Oracle, any other mainstream type of database. And the modularity of this thing is you see when you, as you'll see when you go to Android devices, it's modular. So if one section goes down, this is directly related to the domains, and the GUI is set up the same way. It will be able to maintain all the other functions. that point. And the data manipulation at this point. This is a relatively complex system, but we took the lean approach, and it's all hidden because of the GUIs that you will see on the devices. The GUIs took the Six Sigma. The only one that's going to see the complexity of this thing is going to be the database administrator. And in the concept of this thing, when we were testing, we did a lot of white box testing, knowing the codes, going through there. And since it was modular, we could take each module and test it. And then we moved to a black box testing area. The black box testing in this, with, again, heavy on the GUIs, is modular. You can take one GUI, functional test GUI, to the next GUI. And then you can also, after that GUI testing, move into actual functional data testing at that point. And it works it's very streamlined, very to the point. And if you look at in the test documents, in section 3, you can see the GUI flow, which we have in there. It's been simplified real nicely at that point. Very, very lean. That's all I have.
Okay, for the demo, we actually brought our Android devices. So what we're going to do is have you use our Android system. We already logged in, so this is going to be the manager, supervisor, GUI. The technicians will only see add device, delete device.
And this is not a Windows-based, web-based setup, it's just mobile device.
Right.
You can log on.
Oh, later on I will show the desktop version. Here's another one if you'd like to use that.
This is basically would be the manager, supervisor, and technicians use what they have.
Let's take
So does the audience get to win these? Is there a raffle? I'm keeping this one.
Pass on my
So let's go ahead and go to view domains. If you want to click the button there, view domains. And there's a spinner at the top, or actually it should have a drop down already. It would say users, devices. So you can click on the users, or you can click on the devices, and it will show the item, which is a record that's stored inside that domain, which is AKA a table.
I lost the wireless connectivity.
Should have tethered it to my cell phone there. All right, well, that one's dropped out.
Yeah, the signal's very low.
Okay, so let's go ahead and add a user. For the user, if you could go back to the main screen with a lot of buttons there, add user. There is going to be at the top a drop-down list. So make sure you select user, not the device. And just go ahead and type in whatever name comes to mind as far as user ID, username, position title. You don't have to fill up all the fields if you don't want to at this point of the demonstration. Just make sure you provide employee ID because that's our primary key. Let me know when you're finished. Oh yeah, submit. Press it. Okay, now press the. It should go back to the main screen already. We can go ahead and add a medical device. And please provide a serial number, just alphanumeric, whatever you can punch in, and the type of medical device that you can think of. If you would like, you could enter the start date, end date. There's a specific format that we told MedDev to use as far as the start dates and end dates. It would have to be the year 2012-06-02 for today. And the main goal for building this tracking system for MedDev is that they lose track of their medical devices, on the shelves, out on the floor. There's a 5-day turnaround time. So we have to keep a close track of these.
What fields are required, you said,
Just
for the device?
the serial number and the name. All of them are actually required, but for this demonstration purposes.
Oh, they're all required.
Yes. Yeah, I could actually go ahead and different screen here. For the desktop version, we gave NetDev our desktop version of the tracking system. And on the upper left is going to be the access key that's provided. And there's a secret key right here that they can punch in. The technicians are going to have one set of those keys. For the managers / supervisors, they will have a separate keying system so that when they do request for simple DB up in the cloud, it knows exactly who they are as far as access level. So, for example, list domain. What domains are in here right now? So right now we just created 2 domains. We have devices and users. NetDev can actually create as many domains as they would like, up to 2 terabytes worth. And let's see. Let me do a select statement. Let's see what we created today as far as the users that we created. Okay, it's not showing on here. We created users, correct?
I actually, just as you were pulling that up, I just created one.
Oh, okay.
Because I was so engrossed with all the other buttons. When you were telling me to do something, I was doing something.
Oh,
sorry. I'm trying to break it.
Ask him to do something completely different.
Let me see from devices.
You should just enter a device or a user.
I did enter a device and a user.
I did that too. So, okay,
I
then I got it.
But I think what happened
Do a
was
refresh.
There's one right here. It's employee ID is
That's me.
786.
All right.
That's
me.
Engineer, Lamir Qwerty.
Success.
So,
See, I was doing what you were telling me. I was like, what else could this thing do?
so there's a lot of different select statements. Very important for generating report because for monthly reports, they can say, okay, from this particular day to this particular day, tell me what's still out there, outstanding medical devices. Right now, real quick, I'd like to show you the system admin, okay, the top level admin access. Basically, it's going to be the AWS Management Console. From that point, the identity and access management right here. So if you have technicians, MedDev will only provide them with certain access to the database, which is going to be just in a simple DB, and they can only add, delete, do a simple select statement. So you don't want to give them access, delete domain, it erases everything, right? And so let's say if you have a person named Sam, what access level he is in, this would be the specific access, that allows to get user, get federation token, and if there are other services you would like to use, as far as queuing, DynamoDB, a simple notification system, email system, it's there for MedDev for future use, like enhanced version. We could do that for them. Is there anything else? So that completes our presentation, demonstration, and thank you for coming this morning.
Questions? One question that I have is that the programming part. I noticed that you were showing us some of the design portion of the whole thing. I noticed the use cases. Did you do any programming? C, C++, Java, anything on
We use pretty
programming,
much
or was it just modules that you used?
we use Java for Android pretty much.
Yeah. There's modules provided by AWS, and we tailored it for what Meddev is requesting, and so we personalized it for our own purpose. And we were actually expecting something that would be a quick fix, but no, there's a lot of things involved because you have to gear it towards medical devices and how it gives the information to the cloud and query it back and putting it on the Android device. We actually also took a look at the enhanced version as far as advanced login. What that is you actually go to a web application, token vending machine identity, and it's a separate application, but it goes in tandem with what we're creating for Meddev. So yes, there's a lot of modularity that basic, the
Classes that are already built in.
it's pre-built, but we have to tailor it so it'll show on the Android GUI, because we created separate GUI, so we have to say, okay, I'm trying to gather these things, and I want to plug it into this GUI.
And even for the Android, for the Java, they have classes already built in for you to use?
For the most part, and on at least 2 of them, we have to separate out, okay, this class is going to be just straight up for users, like application users. And this other class, we separated some of the coding so we could say, okay, this is for the medical devices.
The programming was under the Android Java on there, and the modularity, the linking was a lot of stuff that it pulled into our Android program at that point.
What was the hardest part of this project?
I would say most of the work I did was on documentation, so a lot of work on the documentation.
For me and Chris, we're trying to figure out as far as the hash map. How do you do this? How do you get the hash map?
Hashing, that goes to data structures. So
This is Java hash map. It's much harder. But no, we figured it out because the good thing with programming in Android is you can say that, from text to string, and then you do a for loop, you do an iteration basically, and you just make sure that information gets plugged in at the right spots. So that
Actually,
helps out.
something I added, the documentation wasn't really, it's not really hard, it's just a lot of time consuming. You gotta do research and then make sure everything's correct. So it's just a lot of work on the documentation.
Some of the non-technical questions. So in terms of teamwork, because that's also partly an issue, and then there's a team of engineers working together with developers. So how do you communicate developing this software? Did you have any kind of difficulty with communication, for example?
That was one of the.
Oftentimes that's an issue.
We communicated quite nicely at first, and then we had a week break in, and there were some issues that came up. We reestablished communication at a very high level at that point. We were able to produce our meetings at that point. A lot of emails, a lot of texts, and we just kept on going back and forth until we finally understood what was going on at that point. And we each had particular tasking, but they overlapped each other, and it was just it was finding a way to coordinate all those overlapping tasking. Since we had documentation, the software had to match the documentation, the testing had to match the software. So once we increased the communication at that point, which was the number one or number 2 risk factor, at that point, everything was really communicated quickly and nicely.
Is there a project timeline? Was there a project manager in the team, or was it not just?
Yes, we had a project timeline, and for the most part, we were pretty much on schedule. A few things took a little longer, and that fell into the risk category at that point, and we were able to pull ourselves out of it just through a lot of communication. And a lot of things fell behind because of the way we looked at it. There wasn't enough detailed communication at first.
Yeah, we helped each other out as far as, he's our project manager, but at a certain point, Franco, being QA, especially for the documentation, he constantly, talk to us, hey, I need this, so it's not just one person to manage it, just, you know, or another team member is just straight up doing the codes. We collaborate.
They're actually together with this down. It was astounding. They had some problems communicating open. They figured it out. They retracked. They took a look at it and they recovered. And it was, in my view, absolutely amazing to see. It was amazing. You guys did a superb job at figuring out what was wrong and dealing with it. Never seen that. I've never seen that. That was fantastic.
I think it's a really great project. I think it's an example of looking down what it's kind of icing on the top of the cake, but it's a simple idea. You had kind of simple approach and you did a quick job. I mean, it's not a quick job, but you did a job where, you know, sometimes we have a tendency, even myself in industry, to overcomplicate the problem, and then somebody will come around and say, well, actually, we could do this a lot simpler, and then I feel like, no, you have to go with my level of complication.
We'll try that.
But you know, it was very simple. It's very clean, and it actually does the job. And I think it's just astounding. It's great. I think it's very easy. It's wonderful. Thank you.
It's a Six Sigma approach and just try and give them what they need. And
I think that was the key. Is that there's only a few things to show, to focus the audience, and to show that these are the things we're doing. And I think the fact that you separated out. Well, there's these two users. There's the technician and there's the manager type, and they have these distinct tasks, and you're kind of focused on that. Whereas me, I would have kind of shown them all the other things like the plumbing and the kitchen sink and the dishwasher.
Very nice. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.